Apple's iPhone 15 series is here, and as usual, we have 4 new phones in the series. 2 non-Pro iPhone models, then an iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max. So if you just bought yourself a cool new iPhone 14 Pro Max over the past 12 months, you might be wondering, oh, is it time to change it now? Short story, in my opinion, is no, not really. Sure, there will be a number of small improvements, but we don't foresee any of them being explicit game changers, like the 120Hz screen of the iPhone 13 Pro or the 48MP camera of the iPhone 14 Pro were. But I am not here to be a killjoy. You may be an iPhone fan. You may like to treat yourself to a brand new device every year for a job well done. Who knows? Maybe your birthday is in September. Hey, happy birthday. Or you just want to know how the new flagship iPhone will compare to what you already have. In any of those cases, we are here to explore the differences between the iPhone 14 Pro Max and iPhone 15 Pro Max. Here is everything we know thus far. Apple typically sticks to the same design for years on end. The iPhone 8 from 2017 looked pretty much like an iPhone 6 from 2014. And the iPhone 14 Pro Max looks just like an iPhone 12 Pro Max with a larger camera. Point being, Apple rarely changes a product's design, but it's a big deal when it happens. Did it happen this year? No. But we do get a new design material. The iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max are made with titanium frames for a lighter feel, but still tough endurance. The new metal also has a new brushed titanium finish, which is very, very welcome. The iPhone 14 Pro's stainless steel frame looks pretty and all, but that shiny finish gets smudgy really fast. Additionally, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is ever so slightly smaller since it has thinner bezels around the display, thus a slightly higher screen-to-body ratio. As for buttons, you will find the power and volume buttons to be on the same spots on both phones. But the iPhone 15 Pro Max has an extra one. The action button now replaces the good old mute toggle. By default, the action button will cycle through mute and ringer. But you will also be able to customize it to open apps, Siri shortcuts, flashlight, camera, focus modes, etc. It sounds fun. But we can't say we won't miss fiddling with the good old mute toggle on a classic iPhone. Also, the iPhone 15 series have a USB Type-C port instead of the Lightning port for charging and data transfers. The non-Pro iPhones are still stuck to USB 2.0 speeds, but the iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max will be able to transfer data via cable with USB 3 speeds. Now talking about the displays, we have mostly the same screens on both devices. Samsung made OLED panels that have the dynamic island cutout on top, 120 Hz refresh rates, and 2000 nit max peak brightness. Do you ever need that much brightness? Possibly not, but Apple is using it for headroom so it can display HDR videos and photos comfortably, no matter your ambient lighting conditions. The other numbers haven't changed. Same 6.7-inch size, with the same 1290 x 2796 resolution, and a 120 Hz promotion refresh rate. Apple has found what it's comfortable with, and in fairness, it works. Another iPhone, another new processor. The line of succession is followed, and the SoC inside the iPhone 15 Pro Max is called Apple A17 Pro. Yes, not Bionic, but Pro. Mostly because it unlocks the USB 3 speeds, but it also gives us a GPU with ray tracing and 10% faster CPU cores and machine learning-assisted upscaling for high-res gaming. It is also a bit of a celebrity. The A17 Pro is the world's first smartphone SoC built on a 3nm process, which is ridiculously small. It fits 19 billion transistors in it and performs 18% more operations per second than the A16 Bionic inside the iPhone 14 Pro Max. What is cool is that the chip has actually convinced some game developers to actually bring their console-grade games to the iPhone 15 Pro. No, that's not a metaphor like Raid, Shadow Legends is console level. We are talking about Assassin's Creed Mirage here, the yet unreleased but highly anticipated AAA game by Ubisoft. Apple's wording made it sound like these games are only coming to the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, but we'll see. It doesn't sound like a great investment for a game studio to only develop for 2 devices. What we do know is that the iPhone 14 Pro Max is still very snappy, fast, smooth, and basically among the best performing smartphones on the market. Its A16 chip will likely live on inside the non-Pro iPhone 15, so it's obviously not going to be considered obsolete just yet. Talking cameras, the main camera sensor of the iPhone 15 Pro Max hasn't changed. It's still the big 48MP one that was introduced with the iPhone 14 Pro Max. What's new with the 15 is the image processing. With upgraded photonic engine and HDR pipelines, Apple is promising better details, better low-light performance, and more accurate skin tones. Plus, the iPhone 15 Pro Max now bins pixels and shoots 24MP photos by default. The iPhone 14 Pro Max defaults at 12MP. Should we expect double the image quality? At this point, we are hoping for less software over-sharpening. What the iPhone 15 Pro Max is getting is a new periscope zoom telephoto lens. Well, okay, it's a tetraprism lens. Look, the end result is a 5x optical zoom. Did we need that much? That's debatable. Apple will be using software magic to make sure the 1x, 4.9x zoom range is of lossless quality, and the new lens allows for a software zoom of up to 25x. The iPhone 14 Pro Max has a 3x telephoto lens and caps out at 15x total digital zoom. Still a far cry from what competitors like Samsung are doing, and barely touching the Pixel's 30x zoom. The selfie and ultra-wide cameras of the iPhone 15 Pro Max were barely mentioned, but it's assumed they gained slight improvements from the aforementioned image processing upgrades. Of course, we really want to test it against the iPhone 14 Pro Max to see how they really compare. Talking about the battery, the Apple A-series chips have the capability of being powerful but also energy efficient. Really, if you put an iPhone under a huge strain, it will eat through a battery fairly fast. Even then, the iPhone 14 Pro Max delivered pretty respectable battery life under heavy load. On the other end of the spectrum, iPhones are exceptionally good at preserving charge while in standby, and also don't drain much for regular tasks, such as browsing, chatting, and YouTube binging. Again, the iPhone 14 Pro Max smashed results, giving us 19 hours of web browsing before turning off. We fully expect that the iPhone 15 Pro Max would be capable of hitting at least that endurance, if not more. Unfortunately, Apple doesn't even reveal battery capacity, so we can't speculate here. Apple's battery stats for the iPhone 15 Pro Max are exactly the same as the ones for the iPhone 14 Pro Max. So what about charging? Same 20-watt draw on the wire, 15-watt with MagSafe chargers. By all means, if you currently have an iPhone 14 Pro Max, you should feel pretty set. We don't think an upgrade to iPhone 15 Pro Max would be mandatory or that much of an improvement, unless you really want that optical zoom and the USB 3 speeds. Especially if you actually use that Pro iPhone as a video camera. In fact, we do think we will be recommending the iPhone 14 Pro Max as a cheaper super premium phone once its price gets ticked down by the release of the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But don't get us wrong, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is definitely shaping up to be a killer phone. If you are on an older iPhone, specifically 12 or below, it will be an awesome jump. If you've never had an iPhone, it would be the most impressive starting point.